Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Thank you for coming back for this session 3, which is going to be considering the transformation of service in the digital era. Our first speaker, Pauline Brown, is Associate CIO for Service Delivery for the University of St Andrews. Now, as you know, St Andrews has been around a wee whiley. It's been around for several hundred years, as a matter of fact. I think it is the oldest university in Scotland, is it not? Therefore, it's very traditional. So how do you go from that to something that's actually a lot more digital? Pauline, over to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to be here. Thank you, sponsors and Digit, for a fantastic lunch. Really good to be back in person, speaking to people, seeing some familiar faces. I'm very much here to learn. We've been on a journey ourselves at St Andrews, but we've got a long way to go, and I've already picked up some great nuggets that we're going to take back to the university. I'm joined today by some of my colleagues from Service Delivery in IT, and pleased that we're back out there seeing what everyone's doing. I've been Associate CIO since August 2019, but I've worked in IT services at the university since 2012. I wonder, can anyone relate to being asked during the pandemic, did you start the pandemic to make us all use Teams more? Well, we got asked that all the time. They felt that, this was our strategy to get people to be more digital at our very traditional university. Anyway, I'm going to share our journey of how our service delivery team has supported the university just teeter towards a more digital way of doing things. And to give some context, I'll need to go back a wee bit before the pandemic. As Mark said, our university is pretty old. We have over 150 buildings, some old, some new, distributed throughout the town, and now a little bit beyond that now. We're a reasonably small university in North East Fife, around 10,500 students, 2,500 staff, and the university really is very much part of the town, as is the golf. I was saying to one of our fellow presenters how much I get asked what my handicap is, and I don't have one, I don't play golf. We recently beat Oxford and Cambridge in some rankings in the last year, and that's been particularly satisfying for us, but that puts extra pressure on us all in delivering our services to the university. So pre-pandemic, we were very much a traditional approach to how we teach, how we meet, how we worked. Everything was in person, as many of us here will have experienced. I would walk 20, 30 minutes to a meeting for a 30-minute meeting across town almost every day. The St Andrews experience is very much about being absorbed in the traditions and the environment and being in the room with the academics who probably wrote the textbooks that the students are now referring to. I suppose our journey started in 2010 when our CIO was appointed. IT wasn't in a great way at St Andrews, and he was brought in following a PwC audit, and his vision was he was trying to keep it simple. We had a lot of shadow IT in our schools and units back then, and we needed to change how we did and delivered IT services. So our IT strategy was about providing the very best service and experience to all the university community. And to help us on that journey, we went through service desk certification in 2012, and I've spoken about that before at previous events. That was a 3-year journey for us, and it was about transforming how we deliver IT services, and it was a hugely beneficial journey for us. In 2014, this picture here shows us winning Best Small Service Desk, and that was the icing on the cake for us. And since then, we've not stopped. We've very much built on those things that we've learned through that certification process. So all was good. We knew what we were doing, and we were delivering a great service. Ross is here with us today. We had great satisfaction rates. Our users knew how to use our services. We were good resolution. We were proactively communicating with people who used our services, and our policies and procedures were in a much better place than when we started on this journey. As part of our IT strategy, we'd started rolling out laptops instead of fixed desktops, and we had made much more of our services accessed remotely. That opportunity for flexibility was very much welcomed, but people still had their own desk, their own office, hot desking was non-existent, and people were really only using remote services when they were probably away at a conference. We started teetering towards some of the 365 tools that were coming online, like OneDrive and OneNote, Skype for Business, Office 365 groups. There was a nervousness around these things from our point of view and from our users' point of view. In 2019, thank goodness, we rolled out Teams, and first of all to our staff and then to our students. But adoption was fairly low, about 500 active users about that time. In 2019, recognising that there was so much growth with all the digital tools, 365, we asked the university if we could recruit 2 business productivity specialists working as part of our business relationship team. We felt quite strongly there was a gap we could probably fill in raising awareness where people could make the most of the digital tools to make them more efficient and effective in how they do their day-to-day job. And we felt we could do that through working with individuals, working with departments, and working with groups of people. Having the post would also allow me in service delivery to offer one-to-one new staff IT inductions. Through politics and other kind of barriers in the way, we weren't able to do that in a positive way for people who were onboarding into the university. So I felt strongly that that would be a real benefit. We were told, no, you can't have this, but we could have one person on a fixed term contract. They weren't convinced. That was fair enough. It was my job to convince them that this was a worthwhile way to go. Quite difficult to find the right person, but we did, and they were appointed in October 19 again, thank goodness. And then COVID hit. I don't need to tell you, if you work in an IT department, how mental it was. It was tough. There was no rules. It was hugely reactive, and as you know, working in a reactive environment is hugely exhausting. We had staff taking kit home, their desks, their chairs, anything at home without logging it, and the additional difficulty of, the supply chain nightmare. People were asking us for things that we simply didn't have and couldn't get. But my dog loved COVID. Mum was home all the time, and he benefited from many puppuccinos. And he kept me sane. He's the one thing that kept me sane through the pandemic. At the end of the senior management meeting every day at 10 o'clock, he knew it was time I needed a walk, and he made sure I got a walk. So I shout out to my Riley. So it was a nightmare, but what an opportunity for us with this new role to positively influence how we do things at St Andrews, as long as we did it correctly. So in the summer of 2020, our business relationship team were more popular than ever and dealing with people around the university that we'd never probably dealt with before. And we were offering our support and expertise, and a lot of the time we were learning as we go to a wide range of people. Converting our in-person meetings to online was probably the easy bit. It was how we help our colleagues digitise all the in-person traditions and the pastoral support and the charm that St Andrews has to offer. So a few examples of how we did that. Human resources, we help them with their policies and their practices. Academic recruitment is hugely complicated and complex. We help them set those things up. The academic and freshers fair, a hugely traditional part of the student offering. We help them create virtual events, and the attendance at those events was much higher than it had ever been in person. Visiting days, traditionally, students in red gowns would tour prospective students and their parents around the beautiful surroundings, so we had to make that online to show the charm of St Andrews. Teaching was the toughest bit. The university had made a decision in the summer of 2020 that for those students who could come to St Andrews for September start, we would teach them in person. For those who couldn't, we would teach them remotely. So dual delivery was born, but none of our teaching spaces were capable of that. That is just not how the university operated before the pandemic. Lecture capture, audio and video capture was just not something we regularly did. So we got funding in July to upgrade 120 teaching spaces for September. Supply chain nightmare? Yes. But we did it. And actually the hardest bit was getting our academics to get their head round using that technology, because that wasn't something that they had done before. But we did. It was tough. It demanded a huge amount of support from our IT and AV team, but we did it. We moved academic advising, so where an academic advisor would discuss module choices with the student, we put that online. It was sensible. It was a much more efficient approach. And everyone felt that was a really positive move. Our principal used to run open forums in our big theatres in St Andrews, and as the pandemic was on, it was really important that she continued to do so. So again, learning as we went, we suggested that they use Teams Live, and working with the principal's senior team, we worked through it, we rehearsed, and more people than ever went to these open forums when they were online, and we managed to do and manage Q&A as well, and really positive. And for me, it was us looking for digital solutions for these people. I think we were often just seen as, oh, IT are the people who fix things when they break, or I don't know what I'm doing. We were starting to be seen in a different light, I think, when we were coming up with these solutions in a very panicked time. Student experience is hugely important to any university, so in anticipation of the start of term in September, the university pulled together to create Countdown to St Andrews, and one of my colleagues here, Bethany, was a massive part of creating that and helping other colleagues to do that. We had decided to create a 2-week online countdown on the run-up to Orientation Week, designed to introduce the students who were in quarantine or remotely to all the charms of the university experience. So over 150 societies, student-facing staff services, library, careers, IT, virtual friend-finding events were created to ensure the traditions of our academic families, for example, could be continued through lockdown. We played such a critical role in enabling this to happen, and we even run a few sessions ourselves for the students, so it was really great. 365 was constantly changing. It's hard to keep up, especially when you're in the middle of a pandemic. So our service desk and our ITV technicians were pretty overwhelmed supporting our colleagues, and keeping up with all the developments was tough. Our business relationship team played such a vital role in supporting those other frontline teams with the overwhelming amount of change and requests that we'd never seen before, assisting with call handling and looking at business solutions for problems that we'd never been presented with. So these teams really came together to support each other, reviewing the services that we offer and things that we should offer in the future. So together we really did learn a lot. So some of the initiatives that we've rolled out, Microsoft 365 user community, we'd started this before the pandemic, but limited engagement. But the idea was a place where we could share information, where people could ask questions, and where the university, the user community, would respond and often offer guidance. During the pandemic, this proved to be really positive and a great support mechanism for people who were just on board with the digital tools, and today it continues to be so. But this was a massive deal for us, and for me, who'd been through the certification process with SDI, because we were obsessed with call stats. And I had spent the previous probably 5 years telling everyone everything must come through the service desk, we need our call stats, this is what we need, don't go near anybody else, this is the only route. But I've become more relaxed about it. Sometimes it can get a little bit interesting in the user community. Some people offer advice which is completely wrong or just, quite frankly, insane. But we've got a lot more chilled. It's a community. It's a safe place. No one's made to feel silly, and people can ask anything. Anything that does look like it should be a call, then we'll divert them to the right place, and they will get the right levels of support from the service desk team. And the service desk will respond in the user community too. They are the font of all knowledge, so it works really, really well. Hopefully you can see that a little bit, but this is just a few examples of what some of our users post in the user community. People are asking for help, using OneNote, using notebooks, and some people are sharing information. Oh, did you know this is coming? And it's not for us to always respond, other people will respond. We will push out useful resources here too, and link back to our resources like our IT blog, where there's a bit more detail around it. During the pandemic, it was really important to us that we offered a range of sessions for our staff and students, and we would adapt our offering based on feedback from that user community, the types of calls we were getting from the service desk, and any kind of change in policy. So when the university announced it was going to move to hybrid working, we ran sessions on that to support people, to make them understand, to help them kind of chat through what that means for them working in the office some of the time and working from home. At the beginning, it was definitely just people finding their feet with the digital platforms and supporting them through that. So we would run sessions such as tips and tricks in Teams, introduction to OneNote, to Planner, to forums and things like that. But now digital literacy has really improved, and folk, some folk want a bit more. So we're always adapting and reviewing what our offering looks like. Sometimes the topic will stretch across multiple areas, and sometimes we invite local experts along. We recently had Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and we thought it'd be great to showcase some of the Windows accessibility features, and we're not the experts in that, so we invited Disability Services team and our web team to share their expertise too, and these worked really well and something that we will continue to do. Now our business productivity specialist, Fiona, in the blue here, will run drop-in sessions both online and in person regularly. Again, we'll determine topics, but we're always happy to take feedback. Fiona will run bookable sessions. Recent ones have been record and transcribe audio, Viva Insights, Cameo and PowerPoint, anything that we think might be of interest to a cohort of staff. It's important to say these are not training sessions, these are awareness sessions, and we always make them short. 20, 30 minutes generally is what they are. We are not an IT training facility. That exists somewhere else in the university, and those people will do that. It's not formal training. It's about awareness and helping people use the tools. And these sessions are a great way for cross-departmental engagement. People here at this session are from probably 4 or 5 different departments. And when someone presents a problem, it's not us that needs to dictate or say this is how you do it. Other people are probably doing something and can share their experience. So it strikes up new relationships and new ways of working, and it's been really positive. We do our one-to-one sessions, bookable sessions open to anyone, but I think probably the greatest benefit is when we can bring a group of people together like this session, which is a group of PAs. We focused on what their key priorities were. What did they want to get out of the session? So diary management, meeting notes. And we can run these online or in person, whatever people prefer. These sessions often trigger something new. So just a few examples from what was got out of this one. One of them, a PA to one of the senior members of the principal's office, used a transcription pedal, the kind of thing from the 80s where you control what's going on in your headphones through a pedal. Fiona showed them the transcribe features in 365, and it's changed the woman's life, and she tells everybody about it. One of the PAs used to print off all the PDFs from the meeting notes, meeting papers, scan them back into the printer so that they were combined into one document. And Fiona showed them, well, there's a combine feature in our PDF software. And again, just little things, changing people's lives and making them more efficient in how they do things. Cup of Teams was a fantastic initiative. Again, our business relationship team came up with this during the pandemic. It's a regular weekly slot on a Friday where we encourage staff to come along for a cuppa virtually and a chat. Usually we will have a topic and we'll announce what that will be. Sometimes it's about letting them know that new features are coming. I think in the early days we did lots of Cup of Teams on backgrounds and everyone was showing off their new background, but things have moved on a little bit since then. It's very much light-hearted and an informal environment. It's just 20 minutes. But again, it's a great place for sharing stories, challenges, sharing frustrations. We have regular attendees. Some people will come every week religiously. They're always there. They love the community. And some people will come along just because they like the topic. Recently, we invited our head of data governance to run a session. And that gave him an opportunity to reach new people that he probably ordinarily wouldn't. So that's been really positive and something we're going to develop further. New staff IT inductions were introduced. First of all, just to our professional services staff, but we have now rolled them out to all staff in the university. What these inductions do is reassure us that our new staff are armed with all the right information within their first few days about the services that we offer and the help that we can provide and where they can get help, and encourage them to get in touch. It's probably not reduced the amount of calls, but it's made sure that people get in touch and ask for help, which is really important. We don't want anyone struggling. So we will share things such as, cyber security best practice, how to use 365, file storage, VPN, that kind of stuff. We've learned as we go with these. We kind of used to have a checklist, but we've moved away from that, and we do personalise them now depending on the role and depending on how that person presents themselves in terms of their experience in digital literacy, and we've got a huge range from very digital literate to illiterate. So really powerful engagements, and you can see some of the feedback here that Fiona's had. But these new staff also play another role because they're going back into their departments, spreading the word, sharing what they've learned and the services that we might offer that other people might not be aware of. Existing staff are probably not as tuned in because we're not getting that direct engagement all the time. A new initiative for us on this is that we've decided we're going to follow up, or we have just started to follow up with people, new staff, after 6 months. See how they're getting on. Is there anything we can help them with, work with their teams, and that's been really, really welcomed. We have been allowed to make our business productivity specialist role permanent, I'm delighted to say. Obviously, the value has been felt throughout the pandemic, but instead of asking to hire another one, which I had initially asked, we decided to create an apprenticeship opportunity. So Dan is our second digital workplace apprentice, and he's on a 2-year contract. In the last 10 years at St Andrews, we've had over 35 IT modern apprentices, and that's been really successful. So to create another type of apprenticeship has been really good. Dan now carries out some of our IT inductions, prepares blog posts, does research, posts in the user community, and will support Fiona on the sessions that she runs. So things have changed dramatically at the university. During the pandemic, we moved much of our professional service units to a site 4 miles outside St Andrews. If you know the area, it's a former paper mill, which is next to Lookers Air Base. The environment now is hot desking, open plan, with a focus on collaboration, a far cry from what we were used to 3 years ago. If we hadn't focused on the digital transformation, I don't think it would have been so successful, because this was a massive culture change. And before the pandemic, the thought of people moving into this environment was not always welcomed. So I am really proud of how key a role IT services have played in helping our staff transition into this new working environment through our proactive engagement and communication. And now, more than ever, I think we are seen as more credible and solution-focused and approachable. And the university has definitely embraced a more digital way of doing things, and that's very much part of our strategy going forward. So that's me. I hope that's been of interest. If anybody does want to get in touch, my email address is on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline. One of my favourite comedians is Dara O'Brien. You know, he's a big guy, overweight, balding. I don't know why I feel an affinity with him. But he's got a great line. He says, I love my bed. I love my bed. He says, but it's like IKEA. Easy to get into, impossible to get out of. Our next speaker hopefully can tell you how to get out of IKEA without going past the meatballs. Nadia Ness is Global Head of Transformation for Customer Support. So Nadia, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Nadia, and thank you so much for having me. As you were introduced to me, I work at IKEA and I lead our customer support transformation. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have shopped or been to an IKEA before? I have to say, IKEA is the only company that I've worked for that I would ever risk an early audience participation question. But what I'd like to do is tell you about an IKEA that you might not know so well. So let me take you back to the end of 2019, start of 2020, when COVID was one patient far away, and we had this iconic store experience. So we knew from our customer satisfaction surveys that customers generally, even if they do get lost in store, love visiting. They love sitting on all the sofas, having their meatballs. If you're like me, buying too many candles before you leave. But everything outside of the big blue box really had been forgotten. And customer support, and I'm sure this might resonate with some of you, was really an unloved and underfunded part of an organisation. It had sort of become the dumping ground for all of the unglamorous jobs that the rest of the organisation didn't want to deal with. We had about 10,000 co-workers who were and are brilliant, but really had no career development, no clear scope, and just a lack of investment and training, and sometimes even nice office space. Also, IKEA is a global brand, but every country had their own way of doing things. So every country that IKEA is in had its own digital landscape. They decided to work with local partners, and so that meant that firstly, there was no opportunity for economies of scale. But secondly, we were missing out on so many other opportunities, like using data in a smart and meaningful way. And all of this meant that even before COVID, we were on track to grow customer support at an unsustainable rate. So for every 1% of our sales growth, we had 4% of cost growth for calls coming in. And we were on track to spend 500 million euros just firefighting calls. No value add, nothing for our customers, and nothing for our people. So when we looked in the mirror, we looked hard and realised that we really needed to take this iconic bricks and mortar cash and carry retailer and drag it into the 21st century by becoming an omni-channel brand. And we decided that we needed to do that by building long-term trust and loyalty and make all of our interactions iconic. And specifically, we would do that in a couple of key ways. So firstly, we had to build an omni-channel experience where things just worked. So we had to start focusing on service design that spanned all of our customer meeting points. We also had to build a self-service capability. Now, we talk about this all the time, that the irony of a company that asks you to build your own furniture but won't let you self-help for customer support wasn't lost on any of us. So we had to start building this digital infrastructure where customers could do the easy transactional things for themselves, and also that our co-workers had the right tools to underpin that when they did then need to speak to our customers. But of course, customer support and human interaction will always be a really important part of IKEA. We are very proud of the fact that we invest in our people and our planet. And so this wasn't just about moving everything to self-service and flat packing your customer support. It was also about in those moments of truth when our customers need us, either if it was a complex interaction, a really high value interaction, or just a customer that had different accessibility needs, that we had systems and processes in place that let our customers feel like we appreciated their loyalty, that we trusted what they were telling us, and that they could feel the love between co-workers and customers. So we knew what we needed to do, but I need to tell you that IKEA has a really proud heritage, and for lots of amazing reasons. We've been a company for 80 years this year. But people quote our founder Ingvar in meetings today, and he passed away 5 years ago. So that history is still just intrinsic in people's nature. And so we knew that if we were going to talk about an omni-channel transformation, that we had to make it tangible and real. And also, omni-channel is one of those words that gets bandied around a lot, but what did that mean in an IKEA context? So we came up with the 10 big shifts, and this was really our North Star for the organisation, where we shared exactly what customer support transformation would do. For example, We're proud to stand by the fact that we want to have, ideally, 100% of happy customers. So we really wanted to shift the needle on all of our support interactions. We had to articulate that we would be changing the types of interactions that our co-workers managed. So moving from non-value added transactions, very simple, basic things, to adding more value, offering different services, becoming more proactive, and doing that on more modern channels. So modern for IKEA, but not modern for the rest of the world. So chat and social media and chatbot, as well as phone and voice. We also wanted to harness our co-workers and our people in a different way. So we wanted to unleash their passion. We wanted to offer them flexible working, different working models, and also use partners in a smart way. And then with that, we wanted to add new capability with things like data analytics to really make the most of all of the digital investment that we were making. So we had our North Star, we had our why, but it was no mean feat. So how are we going to go about this huge transformation programme? And we split it down into 5 blocks. So the first was all about laying the foundation. We had to give our customer support co-workers modern customer support tools to be able to do their job that were globally standardised but locally relevant. Then we had to go all in on digital self-service. So we had to set up a product team organisation that could continually test, adapt, deploy and deliver multiple different self-service journeys across web and app. Then we had this notion that our customer support centres were just seen as a cost, and a lot of the conversations pre this transformation programme had been all about how do we deliver customer support in the lowest cost way to the business, and just all about cost to serve. But actually, our customer support co-workers sit with a huge amount of knowledge about our range, a huge amount of passion about our range. And also, one of our IKEA values is that we're accessible. But how accessible are we if you want a new kitchen and you're a 5-hour drive from your local store? Also, from a planet perspective, building these massive blue boxes everywhere isn't necessarily planet friendly. And so we said that we wanted to turn our customer support into these remote customer meeting points where we could go all in on remote planning and selling. So why not plan your kitchen from your kitchen? Why not build tools that give you the same inspiration as wandering around the market hall? And why not let our customer support co-workers handle more meaningful conversations like that with our customers? But to do that, we had to have the right organisation in place. Customer support had been completely out of scope of a lot of previous restructures within IKEA. So we said that as well as doing a digital change, as well as creating new revenue streams, we also had to set up our organisation for the future. So that meant that we had to give teams a broader but clearer scope. We had to properly anchor their potential in the wider ecosystem. We had to invest in new centres of expertise like experience design specifically for remote interactions. And also, we were set an ambitious target from our management board that we were to do this with 0 redundancies across our organisation. And then, as if that wasn't enough, we decided that we never want to fall behind the pack again. IKEA, one of the things that I had said about our heritage that we're really proud of is our founder and everyone around him was entrepreneurial and innovative, and we'd lost that along the way. So the final part of our transformation was setting up an incubation hub where we could harness the latest innovation and customer support and test it in a safe environment before we deployed it on a mass scale. And I don't want you to read this slide, don't worry, but what I really want to get across is that the scope and the size of this transformation was huge. So we were transforming in 31 countries, running about 30 projects concurrently in 3 years. So the pace of change was massive. But running the transformation in this way also allowed us to unlock incremental value consistently, which then continued to build confidence. And what I'll do now is I'll tell you about some of the big things that we've done. So I said that we wanted to build a true omni-channel experience. So the first thing that we did was we had to create this standardised global customer support toolkit. Remember that I said every country had their own way of doing things. So we had some countries that had invested in the latest cloud technology, and we had some countries that were literally running their whole contact centre on an Excel spreadsheet, which when I joined IKEA, I just couldn't believe was happening. So we launched a suite of tools for our co-workers that involved new knowledge management, both for customers and for employees, quality management, staff planning, chatbots, so we've built and are continuing to develop our own chatbot, and also all of our channel management. Now, again, I know that a lot of you will be sitting in this room feeling like that's the basics, but for IKEA, we didn't have any of these things. The next thing that we did was we built a whole suite of self-service tools. And so we started from a place of some countries had brilliant local solutions that they built. We took those and we adapted them to be able to be used globally. Then we started with the basics, so things that customers expect from every brand that they interact with, like being able to modify your order, being able to cancel your order. Then we started to build on some of the more emotive journeys. So if your kid drops their favourite teddy bear in the IKEA restaurant, how can we track that and get them back to you without you having to wander in a panic around the rest of the store? And then we started to build some more complex tools. So if you want to visualise your new wardrobe before you go to the committing, order stage, or before you make the commitment to go to your local store, let's build planning tools that let you play around with a million different handles and a million different colours, and what does this drawer set look like next to this sofa? So we've been continually releasing, adopting, expanding these tools. And then now we're working particularly on self-service advocacy amongst our co-workers. And then what's really important as well is that we don't forget the hygiene factors. So while all of these things have been going on, we've also been focused on things like system stability, how many screens a co-worker has to have open, because those are the things that if you work in frontline customer support, you actually care about. And hopefully, people being at the heart of everything we do is coming across. And we've done lots of things for our people. So we have moved our customer support centres to being these new remote customer meeting points where we are accountable for end-to-end interactions with our customers that don't happen physically, whether that's a complaint, whether it's a sales interaction, whether it's buying a kitchen. So we've just completed a reorganisation across all of our countries that has set up these new teams, made a clearer scope. We've invested a huge amount in upskilling and reskilling, and also we've been partnering with our Future of Work team so that we're not just training people for customer support of now, but actually we're giving them skills for the long term. And then what we've also done is, as well as our tools, we have created omni-channel customer-centric policies, and that's not just in our customer support centres, but it's also in our stores as well. And that's taken a huge amount of training because cost consciousness in IKEA is something that you hear a lot. But we actually found two things. Our customers were being told different things when they came into the store and when they came to our customer support co-workers. But also our co-workers were so conscious about things like refunds that they were making it difficult for customers because they were trying to save money. And so we really had to do a mindset shift and also an empowerment shift to say, if you are on the front line, we trust you that within these guardrails, you will make the right decision for their customer. For example, if a customer comes into store and they have an IKEA set of drawers and they don't have a receipt, we know they got it from IKEA, so it's okay to swap the drawers and we'll take the hit, but actually what we get back is loyalty from that customer, and sometimes in quite a stressful moment if they're moving house. So we focused on a lot of these things. We've done a lot of stuff, but what have we actually achieved out the back of it? So firstly, since we started this transformation programme, our happy customer score, which is like our CSAT or our NPS, has gone up by 22 points. And we're now in the place where we fixed a lot of the low-hanging fruit, but actually we're also seeing bigger jumps from some of the more strategic initiatives that we've been working on, and that continues to grow. Our co-worker engagement is something we're proud of as well, so it's gone up by 5 points since we started, and actually it is on a par with our store co-workers for the first time ever. We've also grown customer self-service, so we now contain an additional 12% of contacts by having all of these self-service tools. And that has led to a significant amount of cost avoidance, which has let us reinvest back in remote sales. So we're talking tens of millions worth of efficiency savings and over €1 billion worth of sales growth just by reinvesting where we spend our time and energy. We've sunset over 200 local digital solutions. The Excel spreadsheets are gone. We now have standard platforms. And through this, we've managed to save 99.5% of availability. So now you can actually meet our co-workers when you want to speak to them. And we're coming to the end of our transformation programme. So our transformation as a programme of activity wraps up in the summer, and we'll be handing over to the operational teams to continue to go from strength to strength. And we've learned a lot along the way, so if you'll indulge me, I'd just like to share some of our big lessons learned. The first thing that I think has made us so successful is the fact that we've really invested where it would have been easy to cut corners. So we've done a huge amount of storytelling. We've made sure that we have a regular cadence of communication that's translated in every language, that's going out to our leaders to empower them to talk to our co-workers about what's going on. We've invested a lot in different ways of telling this story, whether it's animated demos to bring our self-service tools to life or videos of people talking about their experience if they're in a pilot country. One of the things that we're really proud of is that we've set transformation up as a community. So it doesn't matter if you're in the transformation team, if you're in the operational team, if you're in a digital product team, you're our finance business partner. You're part of the customer support transformation community, and people feel really proud to be on this journey. And so they're out in their different parts of the organisation advocating and selling all the benefits of this. The next thing I would say is we have spent a lot of time and energy tracking our benefits. So if your company's anything like any of the companies I've worked in, memory can be short. And what starts as a transformation programme that everyone's fully behind and has lots of funding, things change along the way. And so we've really had to spend a lot of time understanding the micro movements that each initiative has given us. That allows us to keep securing more funding, but it also lets us kill our darlings. Actually, I was listening to the fireside chat earlier about exactly that point, that sometimes it's okay to course correct, and there are things that we've started that haven't been viable, and we've finished them. And then the last things I would say that I think have stood us in really good stead are creating an environment of psychological safety. So if you're a leader sitting in this room, then you have to be prepared to hear what's not working, and you have to make time to hear it. So I have coffee catch-ups with all of the project managers in every country on a regular basis. I have coffees with their SMEs. It's their space to tell me what's on their mind, and it's my space to assure them that I'm listening and to demonstrate how I'll take action off the back of it. Then the final thing is create space to have strategic recovery and fun. So we pause, we completely down tools once a tertial, and we have what's known as Retro Week, which is basically our opportunity to reflect and to celebrate success, to get external guest speakers in to inspire us and to increase our wellness so that we are fully charged and ready to go for the next sprint of transformation. That is it from me. Thank you for letting me introduce you to the IKEA of the future, and I'll pass over to our next speaker.
Next speakers, plural. We've got a tag team next. Sarah Reeder, Service Strategy Manager for Sky, and Cheryl Graham, Service Strategy Manager for Sky. I don't know whether you intended both going up at the same time, or just one, a bit at a time? Yeah, a bit at a time. Yeah, cracker. Somebody got a coin? Right. We could applaud, couldn't we?
Good afternoon. We've confused matters by tag teaming, so I apologise in advance for that. Thank you to Digit for inviting both Sarah and I up here. I'm really excited to talk to you this afternoon. Also very aware that A, we're a tag team, so I'm going to get the evil eye if I talk too long, so I'll try not to waffle. And also that I am standing in the way of the winner of the Mandalorian Lego kit, which, by the way, is going to be me. So just setting that expectation for you right now. So yes, my name's Cheryl, as I say, Sarah. We are also service strategy managers, so we work for Sky in a department called Digital, CX and Tech Futures, which is very fancy and is very exciting. What we do is we look at customer experience across end-to-end journeys for customers, and that be end users, Sky customers, I'm sure there may be one or two in here, agents, stakeholders, whatever that journey is described as a customer journey, we look at it. We're a group function and we're our tech function. So we do sit in technology, we do work on data-driven solutions, but we do have that experience from a customer lens, which makes us slightly different to some of our other tech partners within Sky. What we're going to do today is we're going to say, as I say, tag team. So I'm going to talk you a little bit through around our CX transformation and what we're planning on looking at going forward. Sarah's then going to show you a couple of tools as to what we've already implemented, just to give you a bit of a flavour as to where we're going and what we're going to do next. So what do customers want and why? I don't think I'm going to tell you anything now that you haven't either already heard or already know from your own experiences. I'd also like to be the first person not to mention the pandemic, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. We are finding, as I'm sure everyone is aware, that since COVID, everyone is far more aware of time, their time, and what they want to do with it. So historically, we have, and still do, have a really good customer service experience through voice, and that's something that we're really proud of and industry-led. However, with COVID showing people that time is of the essence, people are moving to more transactional services. They want to be in control of their own time, their own service. They want to be able to look after their own assets. They don't want to ask for help elsewhere if they can do it themselves. So we're finding that shift into short, sharp exchanges with us. They want something quickly. They want something now. They want to go off and they want to watch that great content that we're showing. They don't want a 20-minute conversation about why they can't access it in the first place. So what we're finding, again, across sales and service is a frictionless experience. They want it to be quick. They want it to be as frictionless as possible, and they want it to go across channel. I think my previous panelist mentioned omni-channel, and we're certainly very aware of that. It lends itself, as you can expect, to a digital-first journey. However, this puts Sky in a little bit of a conundrum, because as aforementioned, we're really good at customer service in voice, and we're really proud of it. However, we know that we need to shift, and we also know that for a big organisation, we may be slightly behind some of the others, such as IKEA. However, that doesn't mean we're going to sit around and do nothing, because we want to make sure that we're giving the right service to our customers, whatever that might be. So we are at the start of our digital transformation at Sky to reimagine that customer interaction. So on the slide here, what you'll see is a few specific areas that we're targeting among many, many others. If we listed them all, then it would be a very busy slide, but I'm hoping that at least some of you have experienced some of these in part of your life cycle, if you are a Sky customer for that matter. We want to provide customers with choice, that first and foremost. So digital, yes. Digital first lens, yes, absolutely. If like a lot of people in this room, I myself, I don't really want to phone up someone and spend 20 minutes on a phone for something that I think I can fix quite easily by going onto a website. However, not every one of our customers is that way inclined. We have a large demographic, we have a large customer base, so we are making sure that we don't lose sight of that customer choice. And everything is data-driven. So we are taking the data that we already have and we are using that to manage these expectations and to build that interaction in a digital way, and whether that be website, app, mobile, or again, as we say, voice. So, as I say, a few areas that we're currently working on. There are very, very many more. Now, what I was going to do is talk you through just a couple of examples. As I say, I'm very aware I only have half of these 20 minutes, so I don't want to take up too much time. So very high level, 2 stories that I'm going to tell you about where we're hoping to be in a little while, not too far in the future, which may also seem a bit of a surprise for some of you because we may not be there just yet. So meet Rebecca. Rebecca's been with Sky for a few years. She is a Q customer. She has broadband and talk and TV, so we commonly refer to that as triple play. Very nice. She's one of our favourites. Okay, she's happy with the service. She rarely calls in. She pays her bills on time. You know, ideal customer for us, really, if I'm honest. But she's been logging into her online account, which is fine. We can see that. She's been looking at mobiles. Okay, good. We do mobiles too, in case you didn't know. She's looking at mobile. She doesn't have it with us, but, you know, she wants simplification. Again, going back to that, I want to be simple. I want it to be quick and easy. So she's going onto the website. She's looking at mobiles. She's logged in. She's found the mobile she wants. She's found the data plan she wants. She puts it in a basket. She goes through affordability. All of that stuff we're all hopefully very familiar with. But then she abandons the basket. That's fine. Okay, happens. We do that. We change our minds all the time. But then a couple of days later, she does it again. Same phone, different data plan, right? Slightly lower cost data plan. Again, goes through affordability checks, hits the basket, no, abandons it, doesn't do it. Okay. Now, at the moment, that's data we have. We don't do anything with it. But now, moving forwards, we look at that and we go, actually, you know, maybe we can determine what Rebecca is looking for. Maybe we can help her out a little bit here, give her some service. So we send her an email, you know, recognising that she's a customer, a loyal customer, and that we've noticed that she's looking at phones. We give her a personalised link. Hey, Rebecca, come click on this link and we'll give you that phone. That phone you seem to like. We can do that deal for you on that. And that data plan, I know you're swithering a bit, so I tell you what we'll do. We'll give you that big data plan, but we'll give you the little data plan price. So, you know, you're getting extra data for free, okay? Hopefully that's kind of what you want. In this instance, happy path, we like a happy path. She clicks on the link, she goes through, she picks that same offer, she goes through, she completes the sale, happy days. Great, okay. Simple idea, something I'm sure lots of organisations probably in this room already do, something at the moment Sky don't do. So that's just one example of the sort of thing we're looking to do, which is, yes, as a business, create revenue for us, but also recognise the needs of the customer in a digital space, in a nice, easy space, without her having to phone in and speak to us about that. Okay, next example, Doris and James. Doris is fiercely independent. I can't tell with my avatar because they don't have the aging capability, but Doris is a grandmother. She's looking very good for her age. She's 89, you know. But James is her grandson and likes to make sure that she's set up for success. Now, Doris loves technology. Right? She's got a smartphone, she's got an Instagram account, she's on WhatsApp, she does all this stuff. She loves it. But she's 89, right? And actually there are some things that she doesn't really like to get involved in. Dates are a bit confusing. This week, next week, Monday, she'd rather not. She gets a bit confused, thinks about that. When do you have to pay your bills? I'm not quite sure. It comes out of her bank. She doesn't really have to think about it, but she does worry about it. So James takes all that away from her. No, I'll deal with all that, Doris. Don't you worry about it. So she's in an area where all of a sudden we get nice new fibre broadband, which wasn't there before. So James gets an email, not as the account holder, but as the account member who is able to look after Doris's account, and says, we've got this new offer. What do you think? Do you want it? Obviously has a chat with Doris. Doris loves her tech, as we said. She likes a wee video chat, and she's like, oh, okay, that means things are faster. Can I upload more stuff on my Instagram account? Maybe I'll get Snapchat. So they sign up, set it up, lovely. Okay, all set up, online, nice and easy journey. Engineers coming out in a couple of weeks. Marvellous. Okay, all well and good so far. 2 weeks is a long time for Doris. So a couple of days before that day, she calls up James and goes, when's the engineer coming out again? Can you just remind me? So, yeah, fine. Okay, right. So he goes online, goes onto the account. Okay, right, yes, so let's have a look. Right, okay, engineer is coming out on Thursday between 8 and 1. Engineer's name is Rachel. Awesome, thank you very much. Replays that back to Doris. Doris is like, fabulous, right? I'll get the biscuits in between 8 and 1. Make sure that I'm in. Fabulous. Again, at the moment, we don't do that. Or we do it in some instances, but it's not easy to find. What we're finding is certainly is when it comes to these types of calls, especially broadband calls, the majority of calls we get are people just checking. Is the engineer coming out? Are they coming? Is it definitely like tomorrow? Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Yes, it is. But that's a person calling in that doesn't need to call in. So Doris is happy, James is happy, Rachel's happy because there's biscuits, because Doris knew she was coming. Amazing. So as I say, a couple of very small examples, very simple examples, but actually things that you'd probably expect us to already be doing that actually we're not doing. So as part of the process we are doing is looking at these kind of examples and simplifying them for our customer across multi-channel. So as I say, very, very high level, very, very brief, very, very conscious that I'm getting the eyes from Sarah. So what I'm going to do now is bring Sarah on to talk about something we have already implemented and give a real example as to how that's working.
Thanks, Cheryl, and thanks, everyone. So I'm here to talk about what we've done to date. So we've launched our Service Checker UI House in the My Sky app. It's really, really exciting for us because it allows customers to view their Sky products in their account 24/7 and run diagnostics. Now, we want to know, as a provider, how our services are performing. And we do this by ingesting telemetry from our streaming TV and broadband products. But what do we mean by telemetry? Well, our devices are sending a heartbeat to us every 15 minutes to tell us how they're performing, how they're connecting, and if there are any issues. And they're doing this whether you're at home or not. So I'm going to show you very quickly how this works. This is my account. You'll see that I have all my bills and products, and I am a Platinum Sky member. But for the purpose of today, I'm going to go into Service Checker. So this is my home. It's currently checking how everything is working, and you'll see that everything is green. So I've got my streaming TV, my Wi-Fi, and my Sky broadband. And you can see there that the telemetry was sent about 5 minutes ago. Now, if I go into my streaming TV, the first thing you'll see is that I have a puck. It's red, nothing to worry about, it's not plugged in. But then if I go across to my panel, so my Sky Glass, and that is plugged in, then I can actually see a few different things telling me about how the performance is going. First of all, it's connected to the internet, very important because it's a streaming TV. There's connection strength, whether there's any equipment faults, and lastly, if there's any outages. Now that's a really important part because if there are, and Sky are aware, there's no need for me to contact. And as a customer, I don't want to waste my time calling if I don't need to. Now, if I go into my Wi-Fi, again, I've got a selection of options that I can check as a customer. I can check the Wi-Fi to make sure it's on, always a good start. The signal's good, the data transfer speed is good, the hub performance is good, and then I can see some of my connected devices. Now, you'll see here there are 8 connected devices. These are devices that are connected directly to the hub, not through any boosters. And then go back into Service Checker again and check the broadband. Again, I've got a good speed, all looks good, I've got 159 megabits per second, and I can actually have a look back. So if I'm a bit unsure as to how it's performing, if I've had any drops, I can go back and have a look and see. So even if I haven't been at home to witness those drops, if they were happening, they'd be there. And if I come out of that, I can see that the hub is connected. Again, I'm not going to get very far without that. That the connection is stable, there are no errors on the line, and again, just making sure that there aren't any outages, because if it's already getting fixed, I don't want to waste my time calling. That's effort that I don't need. Now, going back to the telemetry, you'll probably remember I said it's every 15 minutes. So what happens if the telemetry is sent now, and then say in 5 minutes' time, my broadband goes down? Well, it will look green, probably for the next 10 minutes or so. But I've got the option here to run a reactive test, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. So it's checking to see if there's any known issues in the area. It's looking at the connection to the hub. And then the last check that it's doing is checking the devices. Now, the device check takes a little bit longer because it's pinging the devices in the home, kind of poking around and seeing if they're working okay. And then it will come back with some results in a second. Just taking a little bit longer, but there we are. So everything looks okay. Again, it's going to give me a summary, a bit more information this time. So it's telling me what my upload speed is and kind of what should normally be available to me. Again, you'll see that my speed is kind of well within that. What my guaranteed download speed is, the speed to the hub, and then also the data usage. So I have no idea, if I'm honest, if this is a lot or a little, but I have 2 kids with Xboxes and they don't do discs anymore, so everything is downloaded. So my broadband gets a good run for its money. Now, if I disagree and I think, actually, I'm not getting Wi-Fi in certain parts of my house, I'm having issues, then what I can do as a customer is actually go into our help content and find an article that would do me good and kind of help me to get some help. You'll see here as well I've got my devices connected, a few more than 8 because some of these are connected to the hub. And this is great, of course, for the majority of society. I have no doubt everyone in this room will be more than confident to navigate that. But what about the people who are from a generation who haven't grown up with technology and haven't yet learned? Or people who have, but still find it a little bit scary? How do we help them?
How do you work this thing?
I think it's that line.
I don't know how to get this photo onto the laptop, please.
No. What's wrong?
My essay is gone.
It should be here somewhere.
Yeah, just deep breath. Take your time with it. Don't rush.
Yeah. Just hold on.
Can't see, Grandad. Hello there. Welcome to Sky News. Today with... Don't worry. Go again.
If we can learn,
Take 12.
we can grow.
Did it?
That's good.
Hey, we got there.
And that's why it's so important we address climate change now.
Sky Up is connecting communities to free Wi-Fi, tech, and providing digital skills to create a better future.
Healthy lifestyles. We crushed it.
I absolutely love this video, and actually everyone in that video has experienced Sky Up, so they're genuine people that have kind of gone through the programme. So it's our programme at Sky to help upskill those who are digitally isolated with technology, connectivity and training. And we have 100 new digital hubs in economically deprived areas. We also have tech grants for young people from lower income areas, and they include things like new tech devices and reliable internet connectivity to support learning. And then thinking back to people who maybe didn't grow up with technology, the older generation, Age UK report the majority of people who are digitally excluded are aged 65 and over. And the greatest causes of digital exclusion amongst older people are a lack of skills, a lack of trust, and not having a reliable internet connection. So we're working directly with Age UK, with the local centres, and Sky Up will be targeted at those over the age of 65 who lack the skills and confidence to get online safely, offering them advice and training to really make the most of services and opportunities available online, helping them to become better ready for the digital age and making sure that nobody is left behind. Now, I just want to say a massive thank you for listening to Cheryl and I today. We are so super excited about digital transformation, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. There is a QR code on there. It's not the one for Slido, but if you want to scan it and give us a moment later on and give us your feedback or your thoughts, we would absolutely love that. Thank you so, so much for listening.
Right. Any questions about any of our 3 speakers there? Or 4 speakers there? Well, there's one come through in Slido already. To Pauline. How do we balance performance, price and security of desktops versus laptops to give users flexibility at remote and working from home?
Good question. Can you give me 30 minutes to think about the answer?
No.
So I think the sale from moving from desktops to laptops was quite an easy one. The performance of laptops has changed dramatically over the years, and people saw the benefit of the flexibility. And I think the university senior management saw the benefit of offering that flexibility. We hadn't offered working from home. Pockets of places are probably doing it, but it just allowed, that capability to be there. And so the transition when the pandemic hit, or any kind of situation that people find themselves in, whether they be unwell or not unwell, but unable to come to work for whatever reason, it just gave us, we could see the real benefits of moving to that. We're in a, I can't remember the word. We're in a framework, and we get good prices. So the prices were, not different in terms of desktops and laptops. Okay. So, yeah, it was a no-brainer for us, and it worked really well.
Excellent. Okay. I've got a question to Nadia. Aside from how do you get a job with the Teddy Bear Recovery Unit, you said something interesting towards the end of your presentation, which was basically, to my mind as a consumer, a lot of this stuff is coming at me now. I'm remote. It takes me forever to actually get hold of a human being. How much, what's your assessment as a company, as in the value of, yeah, you can fix this, but you're talking to a machine, or yes, you can talk to a human being? What's the sort of relative importance that you put on both?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think firstly, and I spoke a little bit about this in my presentation, but one of IKEA's big values is accessibility. So, being affordable for the many people, providing a stable life at home for the many people. So firstly, I think we have to acknowledge, and we have had so many debates about this within my team, about there are some customers, and we actually spoke about it not just for IKEA but for Sky as well. There are some customers who don't want to and shouldn't have to do things for themselves, and that is okay. So we have to recognise that accessibility means different things for different people. I think one of the things actually though that has really guided us in this space is we co-opted a customer panel. So we went out and we recruited an international customer panel who have been part of our transformation for 6 months. We meet them every month and we give them homework, and we deliberately tried to recruit a diverse group of customers from different countries, but also different backgrounds, different types of employment, different ages. And so we really got the nuance of where the kind of cut-off point was between the majority being happy to do this thing for themselves, and then actually know this is where I would like to speak to someone, and just in a way that pulse surveys never could give us that level of insight. And also touched on things like, this is an expensive part. When we started this transformation, we thought a lot about expensive purchase and buying a wine glass. Those are two very different things. But actually, customers then spoke about things to us like, but if I'm planning a kitchen, that's a much more private thing. Like, you're going to see my house on camera, and there needs to be a higher level of trust, and maybe I do actually feel more comfortable doing that from behind a screen first rather than you coming straight into my space. So we've had to balance that insight to make smart decisions, and then have tools that are accessible enough for everyone.
Just out of curiosity, did you find big differences in between nationalities as to what people actually are looking for, or is it doesn't matter where you're from, everybody basically wants the same thing?
That's a good question. I would say I've noticed it more in my team. So my team are like a global team. We have 15 different nationalities in my team. So I think it comes out more when we're having a meeting about something. And, I feel like
Scottish people in IKEA have a reputation for being, you know, like loving a joke. So if there's a joke on the table, I can't help but try and, you know, go for it and make it quite casual. My Swedish colleagues don't want to make a decision in one meeting. It's polite in Swedish culture to take things away and reflect on it. My Dutch colleagues want to be there for 5 minutes, say their piece and go. So maybe not with customers as much as with us working together, but then I guess that's of course replicated in what good customer support looks like in a local market. And we've had to make sure that everything we do globally is still locally relevant. Switzerland's a great example. It's a really small country, but they have 4 different national languages and quite distinct cultural differences between a very closely connected population. So we've had to work with the Swiss team, who know way better than me sitting in my home in Glasgow about what will work or what won't.
Okay, interesting. Any questions on the floor? It's okay, we've got stuff coming in the Slido anyway. Before we actually get to the Slido questions, however, Sarah, you mentioned digital hubs, 100 digital hubs around the UK. What are the digital hubs?
So they're hubs that are set up in conjunction with Age UK, but they're things like community centres and things, and we partner with them, so we'll provide like free internet and free Wi-Fi so that people who, at both ends of the spectrum, perhaps younger people who are suffering from kind of digital exclusion for economic reasons, but also people who, so older people who, you know, didn't grow up with computers and find this new world quite scary, being able to go and learn how to use computers, how to navigate this digital age.
Okay, I was just curious. Right, let's go through some of the Slido stuff. From Graham Robertson, you talked well about transformation. How has it impacted staff retention?
For us at St Andrews, I think staff have welcomed the flexibility. We were very much, as I said, you're here and you're present in the office, working at your own desk. So that's definitely been welcomed. That flexibility of, you know, you've got an appointment, there's no point coming to work, or you're in calls all day, there's no point coming to work that day. But we do really see a benefit of problem solving together and being in the office, so that's working well. But retention is difficult because the big corporates, private companies can poach our staff, and we've seen that, and pay way more than anything we could offer in the confines of what we can do. So
let me stand that on its head. If that's the case, why are you still there? Why are you still in St Andrews? Because presumably that would apply to you too.
Yeah, I think everyone's got different values. I value my job at St Andrews because I'm empowered to work with great people, to make change, and I'm trusted to do that. I think if I feel I can't make change, that I can't make a difference, then I would be looking elsewhere. But I feel valued by the university, and I enjoy the people who I work with, and that's really important to me rather than the financial aspect.
Yeah, well, good answer, good answer. Question to Nadia, what was the composition of transformation team in IKEA? What's the number of people involved? Did you hire consultants to develop strategy?
Yeah, good question. So I lead the global transformation team. So within my global head office, I have a team of about 50 people split across the 5 blocks of activity that I mentioned. Also like comms business partner, people and culture business partner, finance BP, that are completely dedicated to us and our transformation. Then we have a project manager who's in every country. So we had 31 project managers that were leading the local implementation, and sometimes also implementation leaders for specific parts of the programme that we funded globally. So for example, when we were doing our OD change, that was a huge amount of work, and so we needed to have additional people and culture resource in order to make that smooth and seamless for our co-workers. So, you know, maybe we would have another 3 or 4 people at any one time, times 31 countries. We did use consultants, so, and I want to stress this, that IKEA is a big company, but it wasn't just about throwing money at a problem, because that is easier to do, but the thing was trying to make it make sense and have the right competence and people working together rather than just all these siloed project teams doing their own thing. We're all firm believers in our transformation that the sum of our parts is bigger than us alone. So we had to be quite critical about where are our blind spots. So for example, when we were developing our peer-to-peer community so that customers can interact with each other, That's not something that we've ever done in IKEA before, and we had to be humble about the fact that we should bring in some external competence. But equally, if there was a development opportunity for one of our internal, and when I say internal, I mean one of the 200,000 employees that work within IKEA, to come in and learn some new skills, we also wanted to offer that career development. So it was a really fine balance. The transformation team has gone through a couple of iterations over the past 3 years. What we started with isn't what we're ending with in the summer, and that's okay too.
Okay. Cheryl, you spoke about a couple of ideas which you said were not actually in practice yet. You just spotted them as potential opportunities. And again, this is something we've discussed in these conferences in the past. There's a very fine line between personalised services and being creepy. How do you actually define that? I mean, how do you say, actually, no, that's just too clever?
It's a good question, and it's one that we are extremely conscious of. You know, GDPR, data privacy, it's all first and foremost in our minds. I think for the examples that I've given, it's data we already have. It's data that is already accepted and agreed by the customer. But you're right, there's a fine line between someone saying, for example, I don't want marketing emails, and then using my Rebecca as an example, then you sending her an email about mobile. It's not one I can answer totally, but it's something that we are very aware of and will be worked through throughout the programme that we've got, because, as you say, there is a fine line between it, and we really don't want to go onto the side of creepy.
I logged onto my bank site once and it said happy birthday. It was actually my birthday. And I thought, I'm not, I just don't that. And then, but 2 weeks after that, I took a flight to Canada on KLM, and one of the stewardesses turned up and said, happy birthday, Mr. Stephen. Now, I liked the latter one, I didn't like the former one, and I'm not sure if that's just because one was just in person. Don't know.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I go back to the retention question?
Sure, by all means.
Only because I know that it's probably a slightly different question from a Sky perspective. Obviously, I referenced the voice quite a lot. And we are at the start of our transformation journey, so there's still an awful lot of planning. But I think I'd like to stress the assumption is very easily made that, okay, we put everything to digital, there's a whole load of contact centre staff that are now redundant and therefore we don't need them. That is 100% not the aim, and it's very, very clear that's not the aim. What we want is to make sure that there is customer choice, and actually we have a huge amount of skilled people in our contact centre, and what we want to do is we want to use those skills, and we want to be able to provide them with the skills to provide the best service for customers. So we also have programmes internally, and I'm not going to call them out because they'll be suitably embarrassed, but there are people in this room who are actually from contact centres working with us in tech as opportunities to upskill and learn more about it, so that, I can't turn around and say no one's going to go as part of a transformation journey. That's an impractical decision, but there is a conscious decision not to look at staff cuts on contact centre. That definitely isn't part of the plan.
No, this fascinates me generally. Almost the difference in perception between what is fiscally prudent, as in you try and keep costs as low as you possibly can. That makes perfect sense. And at the same time, people like people, and how those decisions are actually made in boardrooms. How you actually sell it, Pauline, in the first place.
Yeah. Say the question again.
It wasn't really a question; it was an observation more than anything else. That it's when you're having these discussions about we could do this, we could do that, we could do the other thing. Where does the line tend to fall? Is it towards let's try and automate this as much as we possibly can because that's the cheapest thing to do? As to actually when somebody is in a different country in a new university and they're young and they're a bit confused, it'd be quite nice if they actually spoke to a person. Yeah,
going back to the earlier discussion this morning, we all like email, a certain generation, and younger people don't want email. If I sent my son an email, he'd be like, what are you doing that for? So we've got different people we've got to satisfy. We've got to satisfy the students, and we've got to satisfy the staff. And a key aim at the university is for us not to work in silos in the staff groups that we all work in, and work together for the greater good of the student. And one of the questions touches on what's coming next. So because we've worked together so closely and we're looking at what's happening in the sector, together we're all learning. So now we are offering digital courses where no one needs to come to St Andrews. So the mindset is changing, it's always evolving. And sometimes we get things wrong, but it's just having that confidence to say, yep, we got that wrong, let's move on. So it's been really refreshing, actually, the last couple of years to see that, and that we will question what we do and change if we need to.
Yeah. There's a question there. Query for Sky staff, that's you, Per, by the way. Are you planning to ensure the data collected, in particular for those at risk, is used to ensure customers have the correct services?
Yep. Yeah, so you know, for those of you that I'm sure most of you know about GDPR, but you know, the data is going to be used for the appropriate services in which it is intended. So as part of that process, that doesn't change. There's nothing in that area that's going to make a difference to us. We're not going to change that process at all. And as I said, the data that we have got, it's more to shape the kind of 360 customer experience. So the more data that the customer provides to us as part of their account processing allows us to be more intelligent at what that customer needs, and whether that be a service offering. For argument's sake, a customer has gone online 3 times to check on Service Checker, and their broadband is saying it's fine, and then the customer calls in. The aim for us would be to make sure that they speak to an agent that recognises that and is already set up to help in that conversation. So they haven't then got to go around and explain, well, I've been on the website 4 times running, keep telling me that my Wi-Fi is fine, but actually everything keeps dropping out. So that's the kind of area we're looking at, is providing that more intelligent conversation to save people time, effectively, because we know I don't want to sit on hold for 25 minutes, as wonderful as our music might be, waiting to speak to someone to ask them something that we could potentially do in 2. So it's more around that aspect.
Okay. Was there a question from the floor? Sorry. You kind of lunged forward at one stage. Is there a question from the floor? At all? All right, fine. Okay, no problem at all. Well, there was another one that just disappeared there. Just give me a second, because this thing keeps on dying here on the desk. Where's the one I was looking for? There you go. Sarah and Cheryl, again. My disabled father-in-law relies on Sky for quality of life, and he relies on me to manage his account. Hope new service will be a game changer, it says.
Yeah, so it gives, having it all online kind of gives that opportunity for you to do that. So thinking about my mum, she's just, she's not disabled, she's just not tech savvy, and she gets me to roll her data and stuff. And having all those self-serve options just mean that I can do that for her without having to phone up, get her on the phone and give permission and stuff. But equally, we'll still have, having all these self-serve options is great, but we will still have, to Cheryl's point, the telephone options as well. So, and also we've got an accessibility service. So if your father did want to call or need to call himself, then we've still got people on hand for that.
Yeah. And also, just as kind of a brief follow-up to that, we're also very aware that some of our systems are quite legacy. So for those of you that ask our customers and call up, the first thing you get asked is, are you the account holder? And if you say no, then there are some services that would not necessarily automatically be available to you, even though you manage the account holder's account. So that is also something that we are looking at to make that process simpler. For myself, I look after my father's account. But there are some services he has to do. So again, it's providing that 360 view to allow some of those doors to be opened while still protecting the account privacy. And that's areas we're exploring.
Yeah, it's interesting. She's no longer with us, sadly, but my late mother-in-law could work Sky brilliantly. No problem at all, like falling off a log. The amount of times we tried teaching her how to use Facebook. And it was almost as if she's taking a conscious decision, I can work Sky, but I can't work that. And it's just very frustrating. One last chance. Any questions from the floor? I see a hand going up there. I think it's Kylie, but I'm not sure.
Hi. Actually, it refers back to my own talk on tech waste, Nadia. You mentioned that you managed to sunset 200 legacy systems and a load of old spreadsheets. And that is such an achievement. And I was just wondering if you'd like to give us a few hints about how you actually were so successful at doing that.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like I can take no credit for that because there are brilliant digital minds. Yeah, it was really a process. And so I think the first thing for us was, like I'd said, The issue wasn't the countries that hadn't invested in their customer support tools at all, because as far as they were concerned, they're like, you mean you're going to give us tools that we don't have to spend money on, that are going to work and take us forward? And so that was the easy part almost. Of course, we had to do a lot of training on here's how you use these systems and here's how they integrate into the ecosystem of customer support. The thing that was really hard was the countries that had already spent all this money on local solutions to be designed exactly how they wanted to be. And so we were working with markets like the Netherlands, like China, like super tech savvy, very personalised. And we really had to invest a lot in bringing them on the change journey. And the way that we tried to do that was by having them co-create the features and the releases with us. So trying to not just be like, we're global, we're telling you that this is coming, but actually come into the different product sprints, tell us what your requirements are, what would you love to see and why. And then I think we really had to sell that vision of like the 10 big shifts. So it wasn't about an IT change, it was about a movement. So the thing that really helped us was by appealing to this kind of nature within the people in customer support to say, we want you to be this new amazing part of our organisation. But in order to do that, it's going to require all of us to compromise a little bit. And the compromise for you is we're giving you similar systems, but it's not exactly the same as you have. The other thing, probably psychological safety, which is what I said. So I remember quite early on in the transformation, one of our product managers, we were in our weekly kind of scrum meeting where we were talking about progress. It's like, oh, by the way, Norway didn't go live next week. And it's last week and we were like, oh, excuse me, what? And there was just this kind of culture of things maybe aren't going so well and we're not going to talk about it and we're not going to discuss it at the point that you can intervene, because IKEA is a very non-confrontational environment. It's a very humble environment. And so there is this whole piece of work that escalation isn't disempowering someone. It's not a dirty word. It's okay to say that something's at risk. And then, do you need more money? Do you need more people? Is it a conversation with someone? Is it just hard? And so the final thing that I would say is that prior to joining IKEA, I had led a different digital transformation programme and had spent a lot of time working in the digital organisation at my last company, but not all of our team within IKEA spoke the same digital language as our digital product teams, and we had to spend a lot of time helping people to speak each other's language. And so then when the product teams were trying to talk about this is why it's hard, the person that had been a store manager for 20 years was like, oh yeah, I can relate that to something that I've done in my career. Okay, now I get it. So yeah, I would say psychological safety, to just be honest about the true state of things, bringing people on the journey. It's not about the tech, it's about what we're going to do with it, and then helping bridge the gap between digital and business.
Okay. I'm tempted to round it up there. I'm not asking you this as a question or asking for statements on this. It just appeals to me. This comment on Slido is having an online portal to check my Internet of Things services not a bit like having a phone line to report phone faults. Yes, friend, it is. Yeah, there's no question of that. Yeah. Can I ask you to thank our four speakers one more time, please? Thank you. If you can just bear with me for a couple of minutes, I'd like to thank all of our speakers today. I'm sure you found them interesting, as I have. But I'd also like to thank our conference partners, our exhibitors and our sponsors. They kind of make this possible. These are free events and it can't be done any other way. The delegate badges that you've got, Digit can recycle those. You can take them home if you want. I've got a whole bowl of them at home, but it's completely pointless. We'll be hosting a drinks reception in the Stratosphere. Stay and enjoy if you can. There is a conference survey. That's not just a paper exercise. Did you actually scan this fairly closely to actually try and improve the product next time round? Any suggestions or criticisms, whatever, stick it in there. They will be grateful for the feedback. It will be sent to you by email post-event. There is an opportunity in the survey to put yourself or your organisation or the person sitting next to you forward to present at future events. It's great fun. It's a form of mischief, but yes, it works. We're always keen to extend our pool of speakers, so if you'd like to get involved, we'd love to hear from you. Our next two events are Scott Secure, 30th of March here, and Digit Leader on the 27th of April, also here. My name is Mark Stephen. Thank you very much for your attention today. And if you're not staying for the drinks reception, a safe journey home. Thank you.